We are fortunate, I think, in having with us today some of the Muslim leaders. I make particular reference to Minister Malcolm of New York's Temple Number 7, who is perhaps one of the better known Muslim ministers about the country, who has traveled extensively both in this country and abroad in the Muslim interest. We also have Minister Lewis, who is the minister of Temple Number 11 here in Boston. They have brought with them two other friends whom I will ask them to introduce in a moment or so. I think in fairness we ought to go around the table so that they will know as well who we are, and then we'll get underway without further ado. To my left here is Professor Paul Dietz from the School of Theology, who happens to be on my committee on this dissertation I'm trying to do. So. Then there is Mr. Miguel Riley of Morgan Memorial. There is the Reverend Dickerson of Atlanta, Dr. Adelaide Hill of the African Studies program here at this university. There is Mr. Frank Hurwitz of the Human Relations Center, Bob Chen of the Human Relations Center, Selvin Mavusi from South Africa, Herbert Seelers, who is a minister here from Cleveland, Ralph Lewis from New Jersey, Virgil Hawkins, the South's most patient man from Florida, Harold Isaacs, who is in international relations at MIT, John Cartwright, who has decided whether he wants to be a minister or a sociologist here, and Joe Berkowitz of the Human Relations Center, Nancy Lane of SPRC, Tom Pettigrew of Harvard University, and this is Minister Malcolm X of Temple Number 7, New York City. And will you introduce the other members of your party, please?
Yes, sir. This is Minister Lewis of the Temple here in Boston, and to his right is Brother Clarence, and to Brother Clarence's right is Brother Tracy.
All right.
And I'm happy to be able to be here today. I feel a little bit like I'm on the spot, but I know all of you will take me off of it. Professor, Brother, and Mr. That covers all of it. Eric Lincoln, I met in Atlanta a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, found him to be a wonderful person. And at first hesitated to accept his invitation, but I think that one of the best ways today for good human relations is to get a good understanding of each other. Usually when people are at odds in this day, actually it's because they lack the proper understanding of each other, or sometimes they lack the understanding of the effect or the result that will come about if they don't understand. And that's my main purpose for coming, to try, since I know all of you are probably in positions where you influence the thinking of others. Mr. Muhammad, who is the head of the Muslims in America, probably is the most misunderstood black man in America. He's misunderstood by the white man, and he's misunderstood by the black man. And I think that if both the black and the white had a better understanding of his work and what he teaches and the result that it's having among the people whom he teaches, that they would be very slow and reluctant to heap some of the criticism upon him in the form that it has appeared in the past. Most of you probably are familiar with the teachings of a man called Jesus a couple thousand years ago, and one of the statements that he said that I find very good is, if you don't believe what I'm teaching, examine my work. Don't judge me so much by what I say, but study the result that it has. And I think that that's one of the best yardsticks to measure a man's rightness or wrongness. If you're a doctor and you're working on a patient, and after working and working and working, your patient dies, I don't have too much confidence in you. And if you're not a doctor, yet you work on a similar patient and you cure him, I have more confidence in you than I do the man who claims to be the doctor, because of the result. And it's the same way with Mr. Muhammad. You have many organizations, many leaders, be they political, religious, civic, fraternal, or otherwise, who profess to be interested in rectifying the miserable condition that everybody agrees that the Negro in America is in. Yet, the combined effort of most of the accepted leaders and the accepted teachers has failed to produce the proper result. Mr. Muhammad's worst critics have to agree that he has done more to reform the morals of those who follow him, perhaps, than any other reformer or professed reformer on the scene today. He has taken men, sometimes they criticize us by saying, well, only the ignorant Negroes follow him, or Negroes who have been tramped upon. You don't have a Negro in America who hasn't been tramped upon. And you don't have a Negro in America who hasn't been classified at one time or other as ignorant. And sometimes the Negroes who aren't classified as ignorant, who have the title of doctor and so forth, when they get out of line, they run into the same thing that the ignorant Negro runs into, you see? So we can't accept those classifications. Sometimes they say that the many inmates or convicts or people in prison or with prison records, they're the type that follow him. But I think you'll find that isn't really a criticism. That's a compliment, because if you say that this man is making inmates or men who were in prison stop being thieves, if those are the type who are following him, then that means he's reforming the criminals. And your Western society has failed. If a man with a criminal record or a prison record can become a Muslim and immediately be looked upon as an honorable person, then in that light right there, Mr. Muhammad has succeeded in doing something that Western society has failed, because for a long time your Western cultures have tried to remove the stigma of a prison record. They say that a man should never be condemned or tried twice for the same act once he has paid the penalty. But yet, when a man goes to prison and pays his debt to society, when he comes out, he's still looked upon as a criminal, and he's blocked right there, double jeopardy. Well, Mr. Muhammad has succeeded there where the Western or Christian culture or society has failed. When a man becomes a Muslim, it doesn't make any difference what he was prior to becoming a follower of Mr. Muhammad. As long as he has ceased doing that, he's looked upon with just as much honor and respect. He's judged for what he's doing now, not for what he was doing yesterday. And this, I think, by and large, explains why so many men who have been in prison are following Mr. Muhammad. I, for one, I speak for myself. When I first heard of him and became a follower, I was in prison. And I know that if they were to hold that against others following him, it does not show much insight, foresight, and it doesn't show much lack of bias in judging him. These are things that I'm citing to show. Also, they say, in a minute I'll stop and you can ask me questions. I guess if that's the way you're going to do it. I'm long-winded, you know. Also, they say that he's a teacher of hate, which is ridiculous, because they base their New York Times had an article recently in it which attributed the rise of so-called racism in Harlem to Mr. Muhammad and his followers. One of the Boston papers, I think a couple of weeks ago, called him the Messiah of hate. And frankly, let me tell you right here and now, if I was a white man, I would never let another white man refer to any black man as a Messiah of hate, because it's like throwing stones when you live in a thinner than glass house, if you understand. They referred to him as a Messiah of hate. The New York Times article referred to him as the cause of this racial extremism that's sweeping the country. And actually, they base it upon the fact that he says that the enemy of the black man is going to be judged and removed by God. Now, if that is the grounds by which or on which or with which or for which they accuse him of teaching hate, then every religion that has ever been on this earth taught the same thing. Because you take your Bible, the New Testament is filled with sayings about how God is going to destroy all non-Christians in a lake of fire at a given point. And although Christians say that God is going to destroy all non-Christians, or praying for the elimination of a whole group of people other than themselves, yet they're not classified as hate teachers. Catholics teach that the Catholic Church is the only church, yet Catholics are never accused of teaching Catholic supremacy. Jews teach that they are the elect, the chosen of God, yet they're never accused of teaching Jewish supremacy. Baptists teach that if you are not dipped or drowned or placed beneath the water, that you can't make it into paradise. Yet, and that Baptists are never accused of teaching Baptist supremacy. Yet now, when Mr. Muhammad comes along and teaches the black man that he's the best, that he's the chosen of God, immediately Mr. Muhammad is accused of teaching black supremacy. You see, it depends on who controls the media of communication and can influence the minds on a mass scale of the people. And all of this shows that they don't even use a good yardstick today to measure whether a man is teaching hate. Also, well, that's sufficient. I hit on those things briefly on the surface to let you know that we are aware of how we stand and where we stand in the public eye and in the eye of most people who are supposed to be studying us. And I hope that in making these opening statements that I haven't started off on the wrong foot. If I speak with emphasis or appear to speak very emotionally, it's not out of disrespect. It's because I feel what I say is 100% true. And I doubt that you'll get anybody who will answer your question more frankly, if I figure you can take the answer, than I. And any way that I can be helpful, good. Thank you, Mr. Lincoln. All right, Mr. Hawkins.
Okay. Concerning that Muslim and Muslim, same word. In Arabic, you say Muslim, and Muslim is only the anglicized form of the Arabic Muslim. I'll give you a good example. In Arabic, this is the only word I know in Arabic. It's written like this, and actually what you have here is M, S, L, and then the other M. Consonants alone. In Arabic, originally was written only with consonants. It's a phonetic language. But then nearer to the present era that we're living in right now, vowels were added. So that in any word that's written in a language with characters other than the Latin form, when you translate it into English, you can use any vowel that you want. This is why sometimes you see Muslims spell so many Muslim or Muslim, but actually, from this one thing that's written in Arabic, you can write it in English. So usually your Western people very seldom ever leave anything as it was in its original form. It changes. Sorry to say, but that's true. Now, concerning the Moorish Americans, there was a man named Noble Drew Ali who went to Morocco some years ago and came back and began teaching a form of Islam. And he died or was murdered in Chicago in the late 20s or early 30s, somewhere along. I think it was in the 20s. name was Drew Ali. And Drew Ali, and many of his followers today are following the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Because the group did continue to exist in the 40s, I know
Yes,
that.
that's right, that's right. Many of them today are followers of Mr. Muhammad.
So, yes, Mr. Malcolm, how in your daily work are some of these goals to be accomplished? I heard you mention you have services. What else would a minister do for the members of his temple? What are the kind of social programs? Is there a social action group that would focus on action in the community? Was there social activities? What kind of movement program do you have?
Well, yes, sir. You know, quietly as it is kept, well, first, Harlem is probably the only community in America that's run by the police, as many people have said. Police in Harlem have more influence than any other group. And they have an intergroup, or they have a community leadership council that's run by the 28th precinct. All of the business, civic, fraternal leaders, any form of leader attends this council, and they have it at the Amsterdam News office about once a month. And we attend it. We take part in it. We participate in it. Different problems that affect the community are brought up there. At one time, they had some student teachers who had looked forward toward being placed in Harlem. They were teachers at Columbia. They were there, and the same problems that they thought that they had were brought up and ironed out at this meeting. We do participate, and also economically, the ministers of the various temples show the members how to be successful in business, how to establish businesses for themselves, and to operate these businesses, how to patronize their own businesses, and this gives or provides a form of economic independence. As long as we feel that when our people know how to do something for themselves, then that puts them in a category where they don't have to beg, for a job, or they don't have to be in the category of always having to be the last one hired and the first one fired. They put up businesses and they can hire themselves, or they can work for themselves and hire others of their own kind. We also have programs that develop the morals of the members. As you know, Mr. Muhammad is credited with, now for instance, before I became a Muslim, I smoked 3 packages of cigarettes a day. I was a chain smoker. I would light one off the other, and I couldn't stop. But he showed me how to stop. I stopped. And alcohol, see, these are some of the curses that really our people suffer from. Alcohol, dope addiction. We probably spend more money for whiskey than any other poor minority group. We are poor, and yet we throw more money away for things that are considered vices than any other group. And he shows us how to conquer these. Alcohol is out. Nicotine is out. Dope addiction. Many of our people suffer from dope addiction, drug addiction. And this brother right here was a drug addict. I'm not putting his business in the street. He was a dope addict in an institution. And they couldn't cure him in that institution. And those of you who are familiar with drugs, you know that no institution has been set up in this country that has yet been able to devise a cure for a man who is a drug addict. And this brother came to the temple and heard the teachings of Mr. Muhammad and became cured of drug addiction in one night. He has never in any way had even a taste or an urge or a desire to go back in that life since then. And we have many of our people across the country who are in that category. We have people who were all forms of what you might call social outcasts, that in teaching them that which gives them pride, self-pride, that self-pride automatically makes them want to be somebody and live up to that picture of themselves. And the reason most Negroes, or many Negroes, fall victim to these vices is they're so disillusioned with the picture of themselves that the white man himself has painted. Please, I don't want you to think I'm being hard on the white man, but he is the one absolutely that's guilty for the condition that the Negro is in, whether it's a mental condition, social condition, political condition, religious, whatever you have, whatever condition you find that exists among the Negroes, the white man is responsible. And that doesn't mean that the Negro should be completely exonerated for being in his condition, but you blame not the pupil, but the teacher. And all we know is what we've been taught here by him since then, since we brought here.
Could you describe the differences and similarities in many of these respects between yourselves and, on the one hand, the Garvey movement of 30 years ago and the Lawson nationalist movement of Harlem?
First, Mr. Lawson. When people speak of the Lawson nationalist movement, or the movement of which Mr. James R. Lawson is the president, this writer here, he used the word amorphous. Is that how you say it? Amorphous? And I didn't know what the word meant, frankly. I had never come across it before, but since it was in reference to Mr. Lawson, I was eager to know what he meant. I looked in the dictionary, and it said it's something that exists in the mind. And that's actually the best description that I can give for not Mr. Lawson, but for the United African Nationalist Movement. It doesn't exist. When you see Mr. Lawson, you see the movement. And this is really true. And this is no knock at him or criticism of him. I think if a man can do that, he should be given credit for being quite skillful. And so when you speak of the United African Nationalist Movement, I couldn't pass a comment on it because it doesn't exist. I think Mr. Lawson is a man of many talents. That's my opinion and impression of him. That doesn't criticize him, knock him, or condemn him. He's a man of many talents. Now, the Garvey movement made a great impression, if you recall, on the Negro masses. It didn't make the impression on the so-called Negro intellectual, or the Negro of the what they call higher class. Because those Negroes don't want to be impressed. Believe me, the Negroes who usually get in that category, their greatest desire is to sit down at the table next to you, or buy a home next to you, or marry your daughter, or somebody else whom you have in your family. And so the Garvey movement could not appeal to them. But the same type people whom the Garvey movement appealed to are those who are following Mr. Muhammad today. It's impossible almost to find someone who was in the Garvey movement who today is not following outright or in sympathy with the work that Mr. Muhammad is doing. And we're probably good to point out outright here that because we lay so much emphasis upon the people who were in a bad or at the low rung of the social ladder, many people think that the only people following Mr. Muhammad are the people of that category. Mr. Muhammad has among his followers doctors, lawyers, people of the professional class. He has many of them. But the propaganda system that feeds you your information about us doesn't mention those people. Mr. Muhammad has many people who are of what they call the society. I hate to even use the word myself because it's a little give me a word. Amoral. Yes. But I think that it's wrong to get the impression that only Negro. This Minister Lewis here was in show business. He had his own band. He was skillful, highly talented, and successful as an entertainer. And when he is a follower of Mr. Muhammad. Brother Tracy there was in the United States, Navy? Very patriotic American. And he is a follower of Mr. Muhammad. Brother Rodney back here, his mother is one of the most recognized, loved, and respected civic leaders here in the city of Boston. And he himself was in Korea, were you not? Somewhere over there? Yes. And he's a follower of Mr. Muhammad. And Brother Clarence, he's been all over, everywhere. And he's a follower of Mr. Muhammad. They come to follow him from all categories, all walks of life. The brother who's over the brothers in Newark, in the Newark Temple, is a doctor.
Would you compare the two philosophically, Garvey movement and your own?
Garvey eliminated religion. If you'll notice, Garvey's movement was economic, political, but Garvey didn't stress religion at all. And Mr. Muhammad is a religious leader. He's a very religious man. And every move that Mr. Muhammad makes and every word that he utters, we feel that it is directly from God, and it's based on Scripture. And we feel that everything he's doing is based on biblical prophecy, scriptural prophecy, no matter what the religion is, scriptural prophecy. We feel that he is absolutely the fulfillment of prophecy. We feel that America is the land that's depicted in the Bible as Babylon and Egypt and under those different symbols. And we feel that the Negroes in America are the people who are depicted in the Bible under the symbolic picture of Hebrews in the land of bondage. We don't believe any Hebrews were ever in bondage in Egypt or anywhere else. We believe that that's only a sign or a symbol about the Negro right here in America today. And if those of you who have a knowledge of Egyptian history, Egyptology, and whatnot, know that there is no record in Egyptian history of any 600,000 or so Hebrews in bondage in the land of Egypt. There's no record. It's in direct conflict with biblical, with the Bible. But there is no record because we feel that that didn't happen, but it's only a prophetic, it's a symbol or a sign that paints a prophetic picture of America, of the Negro in America, Pharaoh, you got a modern Pharaoh, and that we believe that Moses is only a sign or symbol painting a prophetic picture of Mr. Muhammad who's here in America today. And if you listen very closely to what Mr. Muhammad teaches, he teaches the same thing that Moses told Pharaoh. Everything he says. You can't find him saying anything today that has not been said in that Bible by Moses. And you can't find the Negro, so-called Negro, facing any problem today that the Hebrews there in that Bible didn't face a similar thing under Pharaoh or in the land of bondage.
One aspect of the Quran intrigues me, that the so-called American parlance, battle of the sexes, the relationship of men and women. As I understand it, the traditional classical teaching puts women in a very secondary position to men. Now, in American society, present time, there's a more of an equality sense between the sexes. What is the present stand of Mr. Muhammad?
We have one wife, number one. We don't practice polygamy. Polygamy. I don't think that Islam places a woman in a secondary role, but I think that it places her in a role where she can get the protection that is not given her by the Western society and Western culture. A woman needs protection. She should be protected. By protection, see, sometimes when, for instance, if you say to your wife, don't go out of the house alone, she may think you're confining her. No. But your love for her is so great that you are taking into consideration what can happen to her with all these wolves on the loose if she's out there by herself. So you're not confining her, you treasure her. And so you don't want your treasure where the thief or the crooked-minded person can put his hand on it. So Islam teaches the woman to go into the public only when she's accompanied by her husband. Or unless it's under some extreme circumstance that can't be avoided. It does not relegate her to any secondary position. It just puts her in a position where her man can give her the respect that is due her. And you know, and you'll agree, that women in the Muslim world get more respect than women do in the Christian world. I think about the most disrespected thing in the creature in the Christian society is the woman, and the one that's the highest on the ladder of disrespect is the Negro woman. She has no respect, no protection whatsoever. Anyone can lay his hands on her, take advantage of her. So we teach this is another thing we teach. We teach our men, they must respect our womanhood and protect them. And a Muslim who follows Mr. Muhammad will lay down his life for his woman. And that's something that is known. That's part of our religion. If you won't do that, then you're not religious. Just as much religious to respect your woman and protect her as it is to turn to the east and pray. Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Mabuzi. Mr. Malcolm, in your travels in Africa, I'm sure I tell you done quite a bit of, seeing that East Central and parts of West Africa, have a Muslim, order, particularly amongst the Negro peoples, has there been any move as far as the organization is concerned to establish any fraternal relationships?
One of the reward, I would say, of my life was when I had a chance to visit Africa last summer and see the love that the African people have
for the black people here in America. And I say reward because in coming up here in America, the type of education that I received, radio, newspaper, and so forth, and it's all forms of education, led me to believe that those people over there didn't want anything to do with us. And they give you that picture. But I found the relationship and the regard of theirs for us to be beyond the regard even that we here in America have for ourselves. And as I was in Egypt, in Sudan, which are Muslim countries, period, and in Nigeria, which is predominantly Muslim, and in Ghana, which has also many Muslims in it. And when they learn that you are from America, they regard you highly. But when they learn that you're a Muslim from America, they regard you even more highly. Even those over there who are Christians regard you more highly than if you were a Christian. This is the thing that puzzles me in a way. But the African, or the man in Africa who's a Christian, is more impressed by an American so-called Negro, if he's a Muslim, than if he came over there and was a Christian. And I think one of the reasons for that is this. The average Negro Christian thinks of himself as an American first and a black man second. Whereas a Muslim thinks of himself as a black man first. Well, he's born. I was a black man before America was America. You understand? And sure, I'm not wrong in saying this because the white people do it. If you ask a man, he says, I'm a Jewish American. He puts Jew ahead of America. Irish American. He puts Ireland ahead of America. French American. He puts France ahead of America. Now, you get to the Negro, American Negro. He puts America first and this term that makes him nothing second. Do you want to take anybody and follow? The Negro just never looks at himself as what he is first. He looks at everything else and then to himself. Now, in Africa, when the African finds out you're a Muslim, for one thing, he knows automatically that you love him. And the average Muslim is more interested in Africa as such because he identifies himself with it more closely. And you can sense when a man identifies himself with your troubles. You can sense it. You can feel it. You can sense it when a man is in pain because you're in pain. And the average Negro in America, his pain, he feels his pain when America is in pain. He doesn't feel it when Africa is in pain. Proof of it is, the intellectual Negro cried loud when Hungary was repaid for what it did. When it got, for the Hungarian situation, the average Negro intellectual, oh, mercy. Why? When the Belgians rained down fire on the natives of the Congo, these same Negroes that opened up their mouths to yell for Hungary had not one word to say. This government itself, when Hungary, all you hear America talk about in the United Nations is the Hungarian situation. You have never heard any person who represents the American government come before the United Nations and speak about the Belgian situation or the Algerian situation or any situation that's happening in a non-white country. Now, the black people can sense this. See, the black people, they're beginning to see that what the white man says doesn't always coincide with his actions. He'll say one thing, but if you watch him, his actions show your actions are moved by how you feel. And though he jumps up and says that this should be and this should be where European nations are concerned, when that same thing is being done to African or Asian nations, he doesn't have a thing to say unless it is in some way jeopardizing his interest as it did in Tibet.
Could you parenthetically clean up this terminology business? What term do you prefer? And what precisely are the reasons why you think of the term Negro as the term that makes a man man?
All right, yes, sir. If you call yourself white, why should I not call myself black? Why? Because you have taught me, and I say you, I don't mean you as an individual, but you, plural. has taught me that I'm a Negro. Now then, if you ask a man his nationality, and he says his nationality is German, that means he comes from a nation called Germany. If he says his nationality is French, it means he came from a nation called France. The term that he uses to identify his nationality connects him with a nation, a language, a culture, a flag, an identity. Now, if he says that his nationality is Negro, he has told you nothing. He hasn't given you a term that has anything to back it up or support it. So what the white man did to get us to accept this term is to teach us that it's Spanish. It's a Spanish word that means black. Now, the Negro, he'll fight you if you say black, because the propaganda system has taught him to deplore black. So, knowing that the Negro don't accept the word black, which is a good word, is a white man went into Spanish and got a word which he says means black in Spanish, but yet, if you take that word Negro and try and apply it to some of these black Spanish-speaking people in South America or Central America, they won't accept it. Minnie Minoso is not referred to as a Negro. He's referred to as a Cuban. Kid Gavilan is not referred to as a Negro. He's called a Cuban. He's blacker than I am, blacker than most of our own black people here in this country. They don't call him Negro. They call him Cuban. No one accepts the term Negro but this black man that's born here in America, and no one catches more hell, excuse the expression, behind it than this black man here in America. You don't catch it until you use the term Negro. Now, another thing, if Negro means black in Spanish, we're not in Spain. Why don't we just be called black? If Negro means black, why don't you just call us black? You don't need to go into Spain to find a name for me, especially when I'm not Spanish. And secondly, sir, the term Negro, they also say that it comes from the word Niger, which is supposed to mean black in Latin, and they say that there's a river in Africa where they kidnapped us from that was called Niger. But that doesn't follow through either, because if Niger is a Latin word, and if Niger is a Latin word, the only way this river in the heart of Africa could have a Latin name would be if the inhabitants along its bank were Latin-speaking people, and I very much doubt that the natives of that area were Latin-speaking people. It's a term that was made up by the white man himself and given to that particular area as an excuse to continue to refer to us, his slaves, as that. We are black people. If the white man is white, we're black. Different shades of black. So no matter how light or dark a white man is, he said he's white. Well, the same way with us. No matter how light or dark we are, we call ourselves black. And there's no contempt there. It's just that we feel that since black is a word, or black is a color that can produce the other colors, we think it's an honor to be that. Those of you who have studied genetics, you know that in your genetics, they term blue eyes as recessive, pale skin as recessive, blonde hair as recessive, and so forth. And they term brown eyes, dark eyes as dominant, dark skin as dominant, dark hair as dominant. Now, you're dealing with plus and negative there. And they point out that the whites can only produce white. Black can produce white or black. Black, you never find, you find an albino, which is the product of two cold black people, which showing you that in that black man is the absolute power to produce all of the rest. But you can't find a black man that has been produced or can be produced by two whites. So since we know that black is an independent color, and when you take all of those colors and put them together, you've got black, and when you get to the absence of all of those colors, you have white. I think in French you call it blanc, and in Spanish you call it blanco, which is related to the English word blank. That means the lesser or the least. Well, since we know that, we just can't see where, since white is a dependent color and black is an independent color, where what right the white man would have of regarding himself as the giver and the doer and the mover and the producer of everything, when he couldn't produce himself.
All right, Mr.
Yes. What method do you have of recruiting for the movement?
We just teach the truth.
I know you use the public gatherings at which Mr. Mohammed spoke, perhaps, and the columns that appeared in the Pittsburgh Courier and your temples. Is there any other organized method to go out to bring Negroes into the movement?
No, it's strange. But
it seems that, you know how they use the word grapevine. It seems that, and strange as it may seem, people just come. Those who come go out and talk about it, and others hear it and they come.
In which section of the country would you say the movement is growing the fastest?
All sections. I was in California last Sunday, a week ago yesterday, where Mr. Muhammad spoke to between 7,000 and 9,000 people at the Olympic Auditorium. And no choirs, no nothing. And at the same time he pulled in that many at the Olympics. The Harlem Globetrotters were at the Sports Coliseum with Mahalia Jackson and Althea Gibson, and I don't know who else. You know, they knew he was coming, so they had to set up something. But I'm inclined to believe that there weren't 8,000 to see the Globetrotters. We haven't used any, what you might call, I don't know what you would call them, but he writes in the Herald Dispatch, and people write about him, and so wherever he goes, those who are interested come out. And what he teaches or says is so frank and raw, you don't have to interpret it, it speaks for itself, that people just go for that. Plus, you know, our people, I think it was rightly phrased in the New York Times when they said that our people are tired of legalism. And they don't understand that legalism. I guess by that the writer meant that all this going through the courts to get a chance to vote or a chance to go to school and things like that, they're tired of that. The Supreme Court passed a decision, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, and they still aren't, you know, they haven't backed it up. Eisenhower should be ashamed of himself. Here he'll talk on every problem that faces the government, and he has not one time opened up his mouth on the question that we're faced with. He just shows you that he's not for it. Because if he had a little bit of pro in him, he'd show it in his action. But he's so minus, so negative on that black issue that he doesn't open up his mouth unless he's prodded into a corner, and then he speaks with a squeak. Yes, ma'am.
I want to go back to my original question about the Moorish Americans. I want to ask you specifically what it is that you think this movement has that the Moorish American movement did not have.
Truth and Mr. Muhammad.
Well,
Mr. Muhammad, Mr. Muhammad is the magnet that today is drawing the black people toward him. He absolutely himself is the magnet. His actions are that which the people love. He carries himself in such a way that no one can get anything on him. So you see, most leaders they can find fault with. The charges that they place against him are charges that Negro masters don't even listen to. Hate, they don't. They say, well, if he's teaching hate, he should. As much hell as we've caught, somebody should teach it. And they also know that anybody who has caught as much as we have from the white man, if we don't hate him, we never will.
but you would say there's not much difference in other values. That is, the feeling about the Negro's position, the attitude about the word Negro, the desire to be involved with Islam rather than Christianity. Aren't those all quite similar in the two groups? It's just the personality, you'd say.
Yes, the personality. He is the Noble Drew Ali was not the man. Mm-hmm. He was a forerunner. But he spoke about the man was coming. Even Garvey himself spoke. He said, I'm not the last one. In Garvey's teaching, he said there is someone that will absolutely do this. And in fact, they deported Garvey. They can't deport Mr. Muhammad. He was born here. And if they did deport him, they'd have many to deport.
How many members are there in your organization?
That's hard to say. That question has been asked in more different forms, and many different answers have been given. Whoever is in a position to tell you how many there are has not said, and whoever has said is not in a position to say.
Could I ask you, you say it's growing everywhere. Is it growing as fast, the movement, in the southern United States as it is in, I noticed you mentioned particular cities, Chicago, Boston, New York, or Los Angeles, but all these are northern or western cities. How is the growth of the movement in the south?
In Atlanta, Mississippi, we have temples in Biloxi, Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, New Orleans, Louisiana,
Charlotte, or
Yes, all down in the Carolinas. We have Florida, and we have temples in Jacksonville. One of our fastest growing temples is in Miami. In fact, we have two in Miami and Tampa. Yeah, everywhere.
Mr. Muhammad himself is from Alabama.
Georgia. Mobile, Georgia.
How does a person become a minister?
Well, he teaches them and prepares them and qualifies them. Then they go up.
There's no training institute or a seminary or
No,
Islam institute of some kind.
there's the University of Islam, but the ministers are not what you might call trained or qualified as that. That's for our children.
When a person becomes a member of the movement, does this mean that he is no longer identified with a particular church?
He is, well, you see, here's how we look at that. We don't look at a person, at a so-called Negro, as a Baptist or Methodist or something like that. If you and I were in Mississippi right now, not Mississippi, let's take Boston, because you don't have to go to Mississippi. I used to live here in this city, and it's got the same thing here that you've got down there, but in a more skillfully camouflaged way. If I ran into some embarrassment, it wouldn't be because I was Muslim. It would be because of this. If you ran into some embarrassment, it wouldn't be because you are a Baptist, but it would be because of your skin. Likewise. So we look at our work, we forget the religious differences, political differences, fraternal differences, and come together on the ground that we all are faced with the same thing. We have many members of the Temple of Islam who still function in various churches. They function in the various fraternities. We have many Masonic followers, because usually a man who is a Mason, he understands what he has. He realizes the value of Islam. But if he doesn't understand what he has, he just doesn't know the value. It's like taking a stone, and because you don't know where it goes, you can throw it over somewhere in the rubbish heap. And if you ever get to your house anywhere near a building, you have to go back and get it. And it's the same way with the Negro who rejects or opposes Islam. It's only because he doesn't understand. But any of them who understand, they are not enemies for us.
Mr. Stevens, Minister Riley.
Does your movement maintain any official liaison with the Christian Church? You mentioned here unofficial relationships, apparently through members of your movement and members of the Christian Church.
Well, we hold lectures in many Christian churches across the country. In Georgia, at the name of that city? In Atlanta. Williams, his name is Williams.
Friendship Baptist?
Yes, yes. We've been in there with Reverend Williams, very nice man, very intelligent. Several churches. Powell's Church there in New York. They're not hostile toward us because we're not hostile toward them. I think if the average Negro preacher spoke his mind, he could tell you that, yes, I know what they're saying is right. By the way, you know, one very prominent Negro preacher here in Boston a few years back, I wouldn't put him on the spot, but he said that Islam is right. He said, but if I try to teach it in my church, they throw me out of it. And that was quite indicative of why. He said, yes, I know it's right, but I couldn't teach it in there, and they threw me out. Meaning the congregation didn't understand well enough to accept the truth. So they wanted to be, what do you call it? They wanted to continue to go under what they were going to do. Yes, sir.
Is your movement attempting to cooperate with the Negro churches?
Yes, sir.
As far as they are, if they work towards racial relations?
Yes, sir. Any church or fraternal group that's interested in bettering the moral, the mental, the social, and the economic conditions of the so-called Negro, there we are 100% in agreement with them. We are not trying to sell the Negro on this pie in the sky after you're dead business. Again, we don't bring that in. But see, the difference between us and the church, I imagine, has been this. He gives the Negro the solution to his problems after he's dead. That's all the church. The Negro church is pointing the Negro toward getting ready to meet your Maker, and which you have to die to. And then after they get him dead, they are promising him that he'll go up in the sky and wear a long white robe and put on a golden crown with golden slippers and drink milk and honey and sit down, and every day will be Sunday. Now then, those white robes, that's the milk and honey is food. The white robes is clothing. The mansion, that's shelter. That's economics. But what the Negro preacher is doing, his economic program, is based on after the Negro dies up in the sky. Mr. Muhammad is offering him that reward right here on this earth before he dies. The Negro preacher and Mr. Muhammad got the same goal, only the Negro object, Negro preacher points it somewhere else some other time.
So you're
Mr.
saying,
Muhammad says you can get it now.
so you're saying the Negro minister is misleading his people?
Well, I think that the Negro minister himself, I don't have to say that, but I think that the average Negro minister will tell you that, yes, they are misleading them. And why? No one has more influence over the Negro public, so to speak, than the Negro preacher. He's the influencing factor in the life of the Negro. Now, the proof of it is, anytime you are being violently persecuted, and a man can sell you an idea, turn the other cheek, and pray for those who despitefully use you, you've got power over that man's mind. And no one can react to persecution like this but the Negro. And he does that under the prompting of the Negro preacher, his pastor. Now, since it is an accepted fact that the Negro pastor or minister has such a strong hold on the mind of his congregation, then that means he's leading them. And he is responsible for whatever condition that they find themselves in. If it were not for the Negro pastor pacifying the mind of his people, our people would be just like the Hungarians. We'd be fighters. We would understand, yes, the Negro, he's the fightingest man on earth. He fought in Korea, he fought in Germany, he fought in the jungles of Iwo Jima. But he'll come back here and the white man will hang his mother on a tree. And he'll take the Bible and say, well, forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do. You see, this Negro preacher makes them that way. No, if the Negro preacher would teach him to have high morals, don't get drunk, don't drink, don't do those things that are not conducive to a better society, and at the same time teach him to fight if his rights are stepped on. Look for peace all the time. Be peaceful and be loving and agreeable with everyone. But if anyone comes to take advantage of you, do the same thing that the white man does. Put down your life. And while the Negro would be a respected man all over the planet tomorrow. But as long as he comes around here with this turn the other cheek doctrine, why, you've got a slave. That's a slave-making. That there is a slave-making religion. When you teach a man, don't fight, no matter what anybody does to you, you remove from him his only weapon against oppression. Listen, it's a natural instinct for a man to put up his hands to defend himself. But the only man that won't defend himself is the American Negro, and he won't because of his religious strength. He doesn't want to. If you notice how he's against the word hate, all you have to do is brand the man as a hater, and the Negro will stay away from him because he loves Jesus, and Jesus is love. And this is a shrewd propaganda trick that the white press is using. They know the mind of the Negro. And they know the mind of the Negro because they know what the Negro preacher is teaching him. Teaching him to shun hating anyone. And now that is not an attack or an indictment against the Negro preacher, but it is an observation which should serve as a warning if he's intelligent enough to see the handwriting on the wall today. You don't find the white pastors doing the same type of teaching to their congregation. Because any white man you find, he'll fight to protect his home. He'll fight, with a shotgun. Not fight just with words, he'll fight with a shotgun. I'm not saying that we should declare war. I'm saying that we should be peaceful in everything that we do. But we should be a man among men. As the Bible says, there's a time for love and a time to hate. That Solomon was a wise man. There's a time for building up and there's a time for tearing down. There's a time for war and there's a time for peace. Now, the Negro should be taught that there's a time for everything, and given the intelligence to know when is the time.
All right, well, our time is drawing pretty nearly to a close. We're going to try to hear from those people who haven't had a chance to ask questions. Riley, Pettigrew, anybody else have something burning? Okay.
Going back almost to the first question in relation to communication with the white man, I've noticed that much of what you've had to say has been to the Negro, and that your projected goal has to do with some relationship with the white man again. Now, how much communication in terms of conferences such as these and in terms of communication in mail, etc., is done with the white leaders who can effect some of these changes that you eventually want to bring about? And,
Well, sir, number one, I don't think that anybody has a better relationship with white people than we. We aren't bitter, as many think we might be. A white man could go nowhere among black people and be treated with more recognition and respect than he is treated with when he comes among us. This is the strangest thing about it all. These Negroes who profess to be Christians and love everybody don't treat the white man with much respect as we do. We don't profess to love everybody, but we will treat him with the respect that he treats us with. He recognizes us for what we are and as what we are. We recognize him for what he is and as what he is. He is not bitter towards us. We are not bitter toward him. White people who know that I'm a Muslim, know what I have been taught, know what I in turn teach, never at any time have ever acted toward me with any hostility, but I have seen them act toward Negroes who love them with contempt and hostility. So, with that understanding, and I think that this is the key to the whole problem, because if the Negro would stop looking to try and win the favor of the white man, but be himself, just go ahead and be whatever you are. If he stays over here, you stay over here. And if you have to communicate or do business with each other, do business with each other. But that doesn't mean that you're trying to solve your problem by putting him on a pedestal and then saying that you should be sitting up there next to him. No. He's a man, you're a man. And work it from there. And Mr. Muhammad's communication with the white man, his communications with the white man, the leaders and so forth, are many. We don't have to communicate with them to let them know what we want and what we teach, because it's a public matter. No one has been as thoroughly and completely and as lengthily investigated by the FBI than we who are Muslims following Mr. Muhammad. And no one has been as harassed by the FBI than we who follow Mr. Muhammad. I say that anywhere and any time because it's true. And they make themselves foolish because people who are doing what we do among Negroes, why the FBI should help us. They can't stop dope peddling. We can stop it. They can't stop juvenile delinquency. We can stop it. They can't stop communism. We don't have any communists among us. Do you understand what I'm saying? All of the things that they say are a detriment to any society, Mr. Muhammad is bringing this about, and because of his bringing this about, he's the most harassed man by the law agency of the federal government than any other black man in America, but he doesn't mind that, because when you're doing good, God is with you. And when God is with you, who else do you need?
Very good. Any other questions? One question I wanted to ask. Is it true that you have several ex-Christian ministers who are ministers in Islam?
Yes, we have some who had churches who were Christian ministers over churches, and they heard Islam and accepted it, and then turned their whole churches into temples. The temple down in Richmond, Virginia the minister David had his own church. He accepted he had his radio program too. He accepted Islam, and his church today is Temple Number 24. And that's happening across the country, though. We have a lot of Christian ministers who are accepting Islam, but we don't have any Muslim ministers who are going back to Christianity.
May I ask one last question?
Yeah.
Can you take a minute to explain the relationship between your movement, both doctrinally and organizationally, with Orthodox Islam in the Middle East?
When you say Orthodox Islam, that's a word that's misused. Orthodox, I think, is from Greek. It means the right, and that which is right. When you refer to Orthodox Islam and then use us in the same sentence, you're disqualifying us as Muslims. You understand what I mean?
Is there any difference between you and your practice of Islam and the way in which it is practiced in the Muslim countries of the Middle East?
If you know Islam, when a man bears witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the apostle of Allah, that makes him a Muslim. And you will find probably Muslims in China or Pakistan who are doing something a little different than the Muslims in Arabia or, say, West Africa. And the difference lies in geographical area and sometimes the social and political conditions under which people find themselves. A person who is living in a Muslim country that is independent automatically would have practices that are different from a person living in a Muslim area that's colonized by outsiders. Yet they will all be bearing witness in the oneness of Allah and the prophethood of Muhammad. There is no difference between a Muslim anywhere on this earth. We are all brothers. And I imagine I've heard them say there are 600 million of them that stretch from the China Sea to the shores of West Africa. And strange as it may seem, with that many people following a religion of that size, you find that the Negro intellectuals in America know less about it than they do any other religion on this earth, because it's on the African Asian area, and most of them don't study that. When Mr. Muhammad went to Africa and Asia at the end of the year, in the beginning of the year, it should have quieted all of the people who referred to him, or to who referred to others as Orthodox, which means he is unorthodox. You don't go to Mecca unorthodox. You don't go to Mecca in Arabia unorthodox. You must be orthodox to enter Mecca. They try you, they test you, they question you, and you must pass certain requirements to enter Mecca. And he went, and the first person to visit him upon his return was a man sent by the embassy, United States Embassy, there in Jeddah, to see if he was all right. The government knows that he went to Mecca. Now, I should think that Mr. Muhammad's trip to Mecca should make those who do research and those who write about him realize that the term Orthodox attached to Muslim is a term that cannot be used anymore when you're speaking of him. Why, he was treated more warmly and regarded more highly by the nobles in Mecca, at Mecca, than probably any Negro, so-called Negro, who ever left the Western Hemisphere. And in every Muslim country that he went to, he was highly honored and recognized for the work of uniting and restoring the high moral standards to the so-called Negroes here in America. He is recognized by the Muslim world as a religious man, a religious leader, and a reformer, and a black man who's doing a good work here in a country where work among black people is better needed than in any other spot on this planet Earth, on this earth, if you understand. And I take that long time to tell you that because I don't think that the term Orthodox and unorthodox goes with the term Muslim. A Muslim is Arabic, Orthodox is Greek, and the two don't come together. And they don't fit well together.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you,
Mr. Malcolm.
You're welcome.
Very much enjoyed that.
Let me thank all of you, and let me say in closing that I hope that no one here has misunderstood and has gotten the impression that my emphatic way of speaking stems from any disrespect or dislike or distaste. I think that it has been an honor as well as a privilege for me, who came out of the alley to be given the chance to come before you, who stand on the top rung of most societies, and explain to you what Mr. Muhammad has done not only for me, but others like me throughout America. And I thank you for listening so patiently and so receptively, and I hope that I haven't hurt, angered, or incited you, and I look forward for the opportunity to come back real soon. Thank you.